Welcome to DNA Business Conversations On. This is our podcast series where creative entrepreneurs in our ecosystem share their wisdom on a facet of entrepreneurship that really helps us break down those barriers to success. I'm Alan, and today we'll be talking about inspiring success one proposal at a time, and it's all about delivering winning proposals and pitches, and I'll be talking to Larissa and Izan. Hi there.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
Great to have you guys here. So let's kick off. Izan, will you kick us off with just some clarity? What is delivering winning proposals and pitches? What is it about, especially in a business sense?
Thanks, Alan. Thank you. Is it whether you love them or loathe them, as lots of people do, but writing sales proposals and responding to tenders and bids and pitching to clients, it's a very vital aspect of business development, selling, closing business. I like data, so in a recent report titled The Buyer's Guide to Bidding, which explores how evaluators or clients, procurement, what they think of proposals they receive, the data shows that the written proposal is the most important factor in their evaluation process. So if you don't know how to develop a winning proposal, you're not equipping yourself to win more business. And what Larissa and I believe is that when you win more business, you employ more people, you create more jobs, and ultimately you improve lives.
That is so true. And it also just brings calmness, winning business. That's what it's all about. And if you do it in the right way with the services you guys offer, that calmness can return and we can enjoy what we do in our businesses.
Correct.
Larissa, how did you even come across this topic of, delivering winning proposals and pitches? What is the backstory?
Well, interestingly, back in, I suppose, my corporate days before running a business, Izan used to be my boss. I had joined the company as part of an acquisition and moved from an operational role to a sales role. And here I learned a lot of what not to do, where you kind of go and pursue every opportunity and you say yes to clients, not really setting the right kind of expectations. The pinnacle for me was when a client asked for a proposal the next day, and of course I was told to say yes, so I said yes, and I went to the tender office, which Izan at that point in time ran, and she sort of just laughed at me when I said I needed a proposal done tomorrow. So I basically learned this thing called proposals to empower myself, because obviously the bid office was laughing at me. And it was love at first sight. Izan introduced me at that stage to the Association of Proposal Management Professionals and Sandy, who was the original founder of nFold. And she was pivotal in both Izan and my growth in terms of understanding the value that proposals help in winning more business. So when Sandy retired and relocated, I bought nFold because I wanted to make a larger difference than just making an impact and changing the standards of proposals in one organization. And Izan always taught me to hire those smarter than me, and hence I brought Izan on as my business partner 2 years into my entrepreneurial journey. And well, we make a great team, and I haven't had to look back since. So I guess I like to say, like most people, I fell into the tender world by accident, but I have now purposely selected proposals and tenders as my career. And what an exciting career it actually is. And this is where we get to live our purpose of inspiring success. We're passionate about proposals and best practices and the impact it makes on winning business.
Yeah, so true. Winning business, changing lives, as we mentioned earlier. And it's so good to hear that you guys are doing something that you really believe in, changing lives with something like this. Who would have thought? And also what I picked up earlier, you said it's a science, and us as business owners, founders, we don't see it that way. We sometimes have it as, oh yes, I better do something about it quickly. I can have it ready by tomorrow, as you said. But It's a science, hey, and something really to dig into. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that. If I can ask you, Zan, many businesses struggle to write these persuasive proposals. What are the most common mistakes that you see? And just in a nutshell, how do we as founders avoid those?
And there are just so many mistakes that I've made, and that we as proposal writers generally make, starting out in something like this. But looking at three of the big mistakes that we see all the time. First of all, most people make their responses or their proposals about themselves, their company, their products, everything about them, rather than focusing on the client, their challenges, their needs. The second thing that we see almost every day is when writers or suppliers, whoever's writing the proposal, don't clearly articulate in plain language why the client should choose them and not the next one. Because clients have choice. You're not the only one that provides service XYZ. So if you can't clearly articulate in writing, the client does not have a reason to pick you. And the third thing, and we see this more when it's a formal RFP or tender process, is when you do not read the RFP or the instructions. And you just fire away, responding, writing, and not understanding what it is that you are actually getting yourself into. And when you don't follow instructions, you can also frustrate evaluators, not just get yourself disqualified, but you'll frustrate them if you get as far as the next phase of the evaluation process. And then if we want to avoid these pitfalls, you mentioned science a little bit earlier on. And yes, this is an art and a science, but it's not difficult. What we as founders and writers and proposal developers do is to make sure that you really, really understand the customer's problem. Why is it a problem worth solving? Secondly, you need to understand your own value and how you are best equipped to solve that problem. And Alan, last is read, and read the tender again. So if those are the three most common mistakes, those are the three easiest ways to address those pitfalls.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm guilty of that. We rush over things. We quickly want to finish it off. But did you actually understand the request properly? It's so true. Very wise words there. Larissa, could you describe a typical client who benefits most from these types of services that you guys offer? Is it even something for founders?
Yes, it is, I think, crucial for founders. If, and only if, they care about winning more business and improving their win rates, which I kind of do as a founder. I do want to do that so that I can continue to employ people and live my purpose. So I think it's very relevant because business development should be any founder's concern. As tender and proposal specialists, we are lucky that we're vendor agnostic. And so we support a wide variety of industries because at the end of the day, it's our clients who are the subject matter experts in what they deliver. For example, we have clients in the IT space, telecommunications, engineering, fleet management, gaming, media, financial services, health, construction, facilities, legal, enterprise development, and skills development industries as an example.
Wow. So, if you think about it, we need to learn as founders. We maybe know our product or our services very well, but similar to not knowing all the ins and outs of running a business, and we learn every day, this is something that we have to educate ourselves on and get in touch with organizations like yourselves. Absolutely. To help us. Yeah, so true. So we've touched...
It becomes hard to be... Sorry, Alan. Yeah. I was just going to say it becomes hard to become objective on your own stuff as well sometimes because we see it all the time.
Yeah, we get caught up in our world, and again, as you mentioned earlier, Zan, it's really about them, but we get caught up in our own things that we just talk about ourselves. As you mentioned, Zan, proposals are about the client. It's not just about us. How do we ensure that our customer needs and benefits are at the central of this process, and that we're not just talking about our company's features or about ourselves?
Such a relevant question, and I think I say this in every one of our training sessions, and it might sound really harsh, but I think just to even reiterate the point is the reality is that clients do not care about you, not until you tell them how you're going to solve their problem, their needs, and how you will achieve the outcomes they want. Then, and only then, will they want to know why you versus anybody else, and are they going to get the best value for their buck. And I specifically say not best price, best value for your buck, because it's really about what does the customer value and how well have you taken that into account in terms of building your value proposition. There's a few ways to do this. The first is to talk about the customer more than yourself. We use the so what test. So there's an example. If you write something, pretend you're the client and see if it answers, so what? Why should they care? So an example would be, if I say something like nFold's the only APMP authorized training organization in Africa, it means nothing if I do not quantify the so what for the customer. Yeah. So if I add, so what this means is that not only do you get globally certified consultants with a proven track record of applying best practices, but that we train the best and brightest proposal professionals across the continent, it now starts to add or link a value that matters to the customer. Your proposal should always start with your client and demonstrate your consideration of their needs. This is not a copy and paste exercise, which we see a lot. We see a lot of this in a lot of companies' proposals where they just copy what was put in the tender document. When we say demonstrate your consideration of actually understanding what they're saying, it is really showing that you've thought about the answer. So an example would be if someone is looking to automate the manual parts of a proposal process, it's not so much that they're looking for an automation tool. It is that they are looking for increased efficiencies. They're looking for better quality. They're looking for more wins. Sorry, Alan?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm listening. We can just carry on.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. No problem. I thought you must have said something.
No.
But there's so many more ways that you can do this. But I think if you start with the customer, you can't go wrong. Remember, I think it's not about you, your company, and all you can do. So proposal is not your company profile. A proposal should talk about where you understand the customer to be currently. So the customer's at point A, and where they want to be, which I like to think of as point B. And the rest of the proposal is the journey you will take them to get to achieving their objectives. That's what your proposal should be about.
It's very clear by just listening to you. It's all about that outside-in thinking from their perspective, and not just focused on myself and as you say, explain to them everything, not just how I can solve it, but how it will work and how we will do this together. So many pointers that, we don't even think about. So, Zan, I want to ask you, what's one piece of advice, given all that we've heard, that you'd give a business owner to ensure, and that are a bit unsure of the professional proposal, whether this is right for them, whether they should pursue. How do I start evaluating their needs?
I think it's a simple approach of, do you want to win business? Are you in your business? Are you a founder of your business to make money, to deliver sales, to grow your revenue? So if winning more deals than losing deals are important to you, then I would say yes, you should look at professional proposals, and how you can professionalize what you are doing at the moment. What do your clients think and say about the proposals they receive today? And if you have to really honestly evaluate your own proposals, and whether this is 1 page, Alan, or 20 pages, it doesn't matter. But when you honestly evaluate the quality of the proposals that you are giving your clients, do you think that they meet global best practice standards? So that would be my first and sort of starting point of advice for founders or for any business owner who is wondering about professional proposals. Is, do you want to win more?
Yeah, I might be totally wrong here, but what comes to mind is we should write for the audience, take them into account and not just the general thing, and there we go, and, another box ticked.
You're 100% right. You're definitely not wrong.
So, Zaan, now just listening to you, if we take it from the outside in and that type of approach and writing for the audience and the things you mentioned, so customer-centric proposals are very wise and it's the way to go. But how do I ensure that I balance that, with showcasing my value, my unique value proposition, if we can call it that?
When it comes to persuasion, and by the way, persuasion is different to manipulation. Persuasion is when you explain the value to your client and the value to you. Manipulation, if it's just get somebody else to do what they don't want to do. So when it comes to persuasion, our brains are hardwired actually to look for certain information, whether you are buying a car, buying a loaf of bread, or buying something from a client. And Larissa mentioned this earlier on. Customers don't really care about you. I know it's harsh, not until you show how you can help them. So how do you get to this balance between customer-centric and explaining your value? There we talk about the 3 C's. So the answer is the 3 C's. Yes, explaining that is about the customer, that you understand their problems. Then it's about your own company and capabilities. And you also need to consider the competition slightly. But when it comes to the second C, your own company or capabilities, you might have 10 different truly unique and value-adding aspects to your business. The customer will not be persuaded if you list all 10, but only 3 are really applicable to them. So you need to understand your own business as much as you understand your clients' problems and challenges. And you have to do this with the competition in the rearview mirror. You can't lose sight of them, but you should also not focus all your attention on what the competition is doing and then not have enough time and energy and resources to spend on yourself, your own value proposition, and how that improves, fixes, addresses, and closes the gaps on the client side.
That's so true. I'm just thinking as I listened, we shouldn't go in over our heads, and we should figure out, is this a good fit too, before we spend all this time and energy and pursuing something, if we haven't clarified that. That's just something I thought of.
And that's why you need to read the tender, read the RFP, or read the client's instruction before you start. And like Larissa said, yes, of course you can have a proposal tomorrow. You have to understand the actual need.
Yeah, and that includes so much research and just figuring out things and learning about them. It's so true, and not just jumping and trying to get things done. So, Larissa, I wanted to ask you, inspiring success sounds great, but it can be intangible, right? Do you track any specific metrics or any kind of results beyond, the win rates that demonstrate the impact of these methods that you guys really promote?
Yes. Win rates, of course, Ellen, are the bottom line number we all want to see increase. But I think the reality is that the results really take the right processes, practices, and behaviors to drive this, right? So we find that setting your key performance indicators or statistics and results that drive the right behaviors ultimately results in increased wins. But it is vital to do regular internal, external benchmarks and building a culture of continuous improvement with focus on optimizing your wins. So for some of our customers, as an example, where we run their bid function for them, then we will obviously put reporting statistics together. There we look at actually scoring things like the qualification ratio, so that we define a scoring ratio of where we pursue bids or not. We measure that against the bids that we've submitted, how many were shortlisted, how many were won, where in the process, if a bid hasn't been won, where in the process, or a proposal hasn't been won, where in the process did we fall short, could we improve? And I think, having this culture of continuous improvement and consistently doing these lessons learned helps you optimize your wins. And there's really nobody better to benchmark yourself against than the customer. So for our services where we're doing bids, yes, win rates is obviously a massive criteria, but I think it's also around the quality, the perspective and the feedback that we get from our clients based on the submissions, the overall strategic process. But we also do train in this field. We do a lot of training, a lot of company profiles, a lot of content library development. Then it's about the quality and the content impact it has on particular businesses. So customer satisfaction is always prize number one.
I think often we are guilty especially when we don't win a bid or, some new business, it ends there. And if I hear correctly, no, it doesn't. Go figure out why, study it, learn from it, take it forward, and don't just shelve it somewhere. We didn't get that one, let's move on to the next one. I think it's short-sighted. So those, just some of the thoughts you shared are so important here. Izan, what is it that you particularly focus on in your business to help us with, these proposals and so on?
To put it, I want to give a short answer to this because otherwise I can really go off on a tangent. So to put it shortly, we focus on the written words that win. The content of a proposal, of a sales pitch, of a presentation. So taking those words, putting it on paper in a persuasive, structured, and beautifully designed way. So it really boils down to helping customers win tenders, bids, proposals through our consulting, training, and simplification services.
I just realized actually when you do a proposal, it's not just a document that you hand over. There's so much more to it. And as you say, we focus on the written word and just to help founders and business owners in that whole process. It makes perfect sense. What I wanted to ask, why spending more effort, on writing proposals, something that I should consider and not just take lightly? I know we've touched on many aspects, but just to maybe sum it up in a quick sentence or two.
Proposals and pitches are the keys that unlock doors. Whether you are positioning yourself to get more funding, to win business, or to make connections in the industry. This proposal and pitches could be that key that pivot your business towards success, because everything you communicate with a client is an opportunity to win. Make it count.
That is so true. It's a two-way street. You have one shot sometimes, often, make it count. And that leads on to the next question, Izan, I wanted to put to you. We know all the benefits, we touched on it, but maybe beyond just winning a deal, I've been thinking, what other benefits are there? And something that comes to my mind, it might be naive, it can be team building, if we as a collective team work on it, we get to know the organization better, we get to know the prospective client better, we get to know the industry a little better. Those are how I see it when people work together and trying to, put together proposals. Is there anything else that comes to mind from you?
So yes, Alan, it is more than just the win. Of course, we want to win, but I always say people like us, proposal people, are a very special breed. We love what we do. It's the thrill of the chase. It's the strategy, the uncovering. It's almost like a puzzle that you are solving, and we get a kick out of it. That and the time that we spend together. Sometimes in our no makeup, no shoes, no sleep behavior, that happens. It's not ideal, but it happens. But it's deep diving. It is working together as a team. It really, and it helps you, the big team, to understand your organization, its strengths, its weaknesses, its goals, its dreams. It is, it's a way to sharpen your communication skills. So, yes, there's more to it than just the win. There is a camaraderie. I'd say it boils down to a camaraderie.
Yeah, and are you referring to the team members, or does it include your clients, if at all, if they are accessible? And I think they should be most of the time. It's that camaraderie it's with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And we love seeing our clients get excited about the work that we do for them, that they submit to their clients. That's fabulous.
So now, I've been convinced I need to spend more time and efforts, on proposals and doing pitches. And it doesn't matter who the recipient are. It can be investors, it can be clients, and many more, even vendors that I want to collaborate with. So, I think this is what I need. But before I start sending emails and ask you guys to help, what tips do you have? What else? What questions should I be asking myself if I'm really considering this avenue?
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely critical. Is I think that as founders of businesses, resources are finite, and we really have to carefully consider what opportunities we and our business spend time on is absolutely vital. Like you said, whether it is for funding, whether it is for winning business, whatever the reason may be, it is really, really for us to ask, I think, the four main critical questions in sort of qualifying whether we should be spending the opportunity. Of course, is for me, is it real? Is it a real opportunity? Is it something that, is not just a sort of a shopping exercise that's going to sort of waste your time? So we want to quantify that a little bit. Can we do it? Do we have enough time to put a compelling response together? Or if we put a really quick response together, are we going to do more damage to our company reputation than not? So can we deliver on the scope of work and provide all the relevant evidence that's required to qualify? Because if you don't qualify, you're actually just wasting your time. And then can we win it? Are we positioned to do this? For example, do we actually have a good business case? Do we have a good value proposition to make to the client? Have we got something compelling to be able to share? And then I think a question that often as founders, we sometimes forget to ask this question because we do get desperate in wanting to make sure we hit our bills and we're bringing in new business. And it's very easy to chase absolutely everything. But the reality is, do we want it? Is it aligned to our company strategy and what it is that we want to achieve? Is it a client that has budgets and actually pays, or are we going to end up in a situation where clients don't have budgets and we're not going to end up with payments, and that's a risk to our business? So I think those are the four most important questions to ask, so that we don't waste time on opportunities where we have a low probability of winning. And that's really what the best companies do, is they are more selective on what opportunities they pursue, so that when you are committed to putting a proposal together, you need to think of it as investing in winning. And it's about putting your best foot forward. because the results are worth it.
You know, I'm just thinking again. You spoke about, do we want this? Do we want to win it? What's the impact? And yes, the question that comes to mind is, how does this impact my team, my business, and other clients? If I'm going to spend a lot of time in this proposal, does it impact work we work on currently? If I do win this, how does it impact my team, other clients, my business? So there's so much thought of, as you mentioned, don't just jump in. Take yourself into consideration too.
It's not a solve-all. You've got to find that right balancing act, and if you get that right, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I guess it comes over time, hey? With experience, you learn, and if we involve, people like yourselves, we can learn from it, because it takes time. It's not just something that can quickly work out. So, any final pearls of wisdoms you guys would like to share on this topic as we end off?
I think, just sort of in closing off, is that I think proposals and tenders need to not be, I know we've used the term maybe proposal people and the terms of proposal officers, but, that's not always the case in most organizations. I think we cannot think of proposals, tenders, and pitches as anything separate from our sales or business development process. It is not something that is isolated. It's part of one whole picture, and it is strategic to your business. That proposals do not look like school projects anymore. They are not just these generic documents that you submit through, and we mustn't just think of it as an admin exercise. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of organizations make. We need to make sure that, one, yes, we're complying and ticking the boxes, but that we provide very clear value propositions to clients with a clear payback message that clearly tells the client why they should choose you versus anybody else. And if you don't spend the time thinking about what is that value, what do you leave the customer with after you've provided services to them, then what are you actually writing and putting in your proposals? And this is a really something worth spending time as organizations looking at. Thanks.
I'm just thinking again, it's definitely something that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's not something to be rushed. And what we should also remember, I'm speaking to myself, is even if you don't win, it still creates an impact. People get an impression of you, your organization, and who knows who they talk to tomorrow, There might be various reasons if you're unsuccessful, but it might not be what you think, and people can still tell others about you. So it's also for us a type of a growth hack. Spend the time on it. Let the clients, even if you don't win the bid, still want to do business with you going forward. This is just one bit maybe that you weren't successful in, but who knows what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely, Alan. And we've had a lot of clients where, we've gone back, to the clients, you get feedback of why you didn't win, and you can build those relationships. And, sometimes it can be just as small as not understanding the industry enough to know where you need to reduce costs in terms of your pricing. So, everyone says they've lost because of pricing, but the reality is until you deep dive, you don't know what that is. So by doing that deep dive, you're actually optimizing your company for winning. But if you don't go back to that opportunity, then you're just repeating the same cycles.
Yes, and we can't afford that, right? As business owners, we just can't
Definitely
afford it.
not. No.
That was most interesting. Thank you. And for everybody out there taking the time to listen, we really appreciate it. And we know this has sparked some ideas. Just thinking about myself, what I've learned here today, it's so valuable. You guys out there can find more info about all of this. Please have a look at Izan and Larissa's profile on our website over at dna.co.za, or just mail us, email@dna.co.za, and we'll put you guys in touch in no time. We'll be back soon with more expertise for our founders by our creative entrepreneurs, and until then, have a good one.